The olden days, 35, 40 years ago, what Lefty Frizzell used to say, I guess I'll take a walk tonight. I know I can't sleep. I won't go to bed at all. Just lay here and weep. Instead I'll make our favorite spot. I think that's what I'll do. 'Cause I got these smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee blue. Smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee all night long. Wondering how a love so right suddenly go wrong. I'll take the next bus out of town. Oh, I gotta be near to you. Oh, I got these smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee blue. I'm sitting at the table where I call my baby's name. I'm wondering where our love went wrong, wondering who's to blame. Listening while the jukebox plays the songs that make me blue. Oh, another cup of coffee and a cigarette or two. Smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee all night long. Wondering how a love so right suddenly go wrong. There's a lot of other people know the misery I'm going through. 'Cause I got these smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee blue. Yes, I've got these smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee blue. I don't know what happened to that second line, but I messed that one up. But we pulled out of it. I'm going, pull up, Rod, pull up, Rod.
All right, so we're going back to the beginning.
All right.
So, when and where were you born? Do you know what day of the week it was? And did your parents tell you anything about the day you were born?
Wow. I was born October 21st of 1950. I know that Mom started having the pains on a Sunday evening. I remember that. And was born early in the morning on Monday. And they wasn't doing anything special because they had no money. Dad had just barely got working at Firestone Tire Company. He hadn't been there very long. Mom wasn't working, and so they was sitting at home and didn't have a TV yet. Television was kind of started in New York in '49 and hadn't really got to Iowa yet. And there was only one channel, and that was ABC, WI-TV in Ames, Iowa. That was the only channel they had.
That was the first one.
Mm-hmm. That was the only
Wow.
one. And so there was just the way I remember Mom telling me is that they were just sitting at home, and all of a sudden the pain started, and then
What house? Where was that at? Was that the Onion Ranch?
no. That would have been at the apartment down the street from Grandpa and Grandma in Idaho.
Oh, really?
They lived on the second floor apartment, just about 6, 7 houses down from Dad's parents.
Is there any story or meaning behind the first and middle name that you were given? What's the connection?
Well, it's definitely after Dean Winchell, my mom's brother.
Because your full name is
Rodney Dean McClanahan. But yeah, it was after my uncle. Mom and her brother Dean they were very close.
Yeah,
They were pretty
they were
close.
real close.
And so one of us boys had to have his name incorporated somehow, and because I was first, that I was bestowed that name, you know, which is kind of cool because today, with the music and stuff like that we've done, it's my last name in the music world. It's Rodney Dean. There is no McClanahan. So it's kind of cool.
I think it
Was
sounds
Rodney
awesome.
after Grandpa?
Grandpa.
Yeah, and that's a story in itself, because Grandpa Max Rodney was spelled R-H-O-D-N-E-Y,
Yeah.
and of course he wanted me to be named after him, and so did Dad, but Mom said it's not going to be R-H, it's going to be R-O, and that was a big fight. I mean, amazingly, Grandpa was pissed for months
Really?
because I was R-O and not R-H. But Mom, of course, you know, the mother had all the say when it come to, they bring the paperwork and Dad ain't even there. Like Dad, he was
Right.
at Firestone working, and she got the name, you know, so that's.
That's
but
a
it
cool
was-
story. I never
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah, that was kind
I
of.
knew they were spelled differently, but I didn't know.
Grandpa was mad for a long time
That's funny.
that it wasn't R-H.
But Grandma won.
Yep, well, my mom, your
Yeah.
grandmother,
Yeah.
she got what she wanted.
Roses are red, my love, violets are blue. Sugar is sweet, my love, but not as sweet as you.
What did you do for fun? And did you have a secret hiding place or favorite spot?
Wow. That's a lot of questions.
And you can just
Just like
pick
a
and
category,
choose, you
like
know, a couple
response-
things that
yeah.
stick out from those categories.
Like, what were you like as a kid? Crazy.
I was,
Ornery.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
I had a lot of energy, and I was energetic, and I was self-sufficient. I didn't need other people to keep me entertained. I entertained myself. Yeah, I could find things to do on my own. I could find my own way to get into trouble, which I did quite often. And I had my little secret place. As a kid, there was times that I was afraid of the dark, and at night I'd have to. I had little things that I would do under the covers, and that was my like my teepee. And if anybody come in, I was going to kill them. My rubber knives and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It sounds kind of silly today, but it was
Did we used
big.
to get in a teepee with a flashlight?
Yeah. In fact, yeah, we did that quite a bit. We
I
make
thought so.
make
It
our own
just came to
little
me.
thing, but it seems silly today because I'm a different person than what that kid was. I grew out of that, but at the time it was frightening.
Oh, sure.
And so I had my little area that I had to go in hiding, so to speak, and have my weapons in case the boogeyman. You know,
Totally.
was gonna
Oh,
get
that's
me.
real when you're a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That's no joke. Like,
But then when he came along, then I had a sidekick.
he was your sacrifice.
Yeah, well,
You could always sacrifice
sacrificed
him.
himself.
Yeah.
That's why I got to know Peter Lorre.
Every
Oh,
younger
no.
sibling knows that story.
Well, he was my sidekick, and,
Yeah.
and we tag team things in. I mean, if one of us was scared, the other one was scared, and if one of us needed help getting out of a situation, the other one was there. I mean, that's the way it's been all our lives.
Tell them how we used to watch scary movies.
Yeah, and they ain't even scary compared to the movies today. But
Oh,
back in
that's-
them days, we thought they were scary, and we wanted to see the movie because everybody talked about it and said, "Oh, you got to see this movie." And we were, of course, we did this for a long time. We would turn on the TV and watch the movie in great black and white, and hide behind the couch.
Couch.
Gary'd be on one end of the couch and I'd be on the other end, and we'd just be peeking around the corner and watch Frankenstein and the Wolfman.
Yeah.
And that
Dracula.
Dracula, yeah.
Billy Lugosi.
And then we would kill each other afterwards. I mean, we would pounce on each other and have a knife fight.
Right. A great
Yeah.
brotherly love.
Yeah, you taught me how to make darts.
Papa Talk again. Just got time for one more round. Settle up, my friend. And I'll be gone, and you can laugh. I'm gonna go sit down.
Or did you have any heroes or role models when you were a child?
I suppose it was Superman and Zorro. I mean, I as far as a family member, is that what you? I don't know if that's what
Not
you're referring to.
necessarily.
I really never did have a family member. I mean, later on in life, and I look back and reflect. Even though Dad and I had issues in younger years, he was a bigger player than what I realized. But I suppose in the younger days it was TV people.
Any ones in particular that stick out to you?
Mainly Superman and Zorro, because they was always helping the weak ones and fighting for the people that didn't have the power to do things on their own.
A white, sport coat, smoke coat, and a pink carnation. I am all alone for romance.
Okay, so now we're starting to work our way up into a little bit more of your kind of adulthood or early adult years. So we already heard what your first job was, but then just kind of talk about your career from there. What were, and maybe not every single one, but kind of your main jobs throughout your career.
Wow. Well, yeah, my first job was Charlie's Super Value, and then
Were you a
worked at-
cashier, or what did you do there?
How many years is that what you asked?
Oh no, what did you do there? Were you like a cashier?
I
or?
just sacked groceries.
Okay.
That's all I did, sack groceries. Then I worked at Standard Oil Station at Hickman and Harding Road, which is now
MLK.
MLK in Harding Road, or Hickman.
In Des Moines. Yeah.
Yep, in Des Moines, Iowa. And I worked there for a year and a half, and then my grandfather got me a job at Gibbs Cook, which is a Caterpillar dealer. Worked there as a mechanic, and then got into supervisory over the road trucks, and did that for a few years, and then the company moved to Hickman Road, and I got into the management side, supervising, and then, gosh, just got a lot of experience supervising and working with customers and putting out fires where they would be upset, and somehow I was good at doing that. We could have a customer who was just violently mad, and I could get him calmed down, and we'd get him fixed, and he was happy again and ready to buy another machine, and that carried on into Fort Dodge, Iowa, and then Sioux City, Iowa, all the same company, but they sent me to these different places because those particular stores was having problems, and they would send me there and more or less get things ironed out, finding out what wasn't working, and then fix it, McClanahan. And I would do that. I would fix it, and then when I got everything running good, they would bring someone else in and move me to another place. and that was Sioux City and Mason City and Postville, Iowa. I worked at every one of them. And then finally back to Des Moines with a almost 6 month stint in South America because one of our largest customers had problems, and so I was sent down there for 6 months in the Amazon.
Is that Mac?
That is the cool.
That was green
Oh,
construction.
that's right.
And so I spent, almost 5.5 months in the Amazon jungle of Guyana and Brazil.
Wow.
And that was just to help a customer that was in need of some major hand holding and training native people to the country. And then back to
Tell them the size of the spiders and the moths and
Oh,
snakes.
Oh, well, that was a whole different challenge because I worked nights and trying to train people, Guyanese and young Brazilians. But you had to work you was out in the jungle. And
I can't.
and I'll never forget, because there was no doctors. You were 120 miles deep in the jungle, and from any town, and there really was no doctors down there like there was in the U.S. at the time. This is 1981, and I had I never wore a T-shirt. I had a button-down shirt, but it was always open because it was always hot there, and it was almost on the equator. And I had a moth, the wingspan about that wide,
Wow.
and the powder on its wings was poisonous. And it
Oh my
flew
goodness.
in the window of the truck and got into my shirt. And I'm trying to get it off. And
Oh, man.
and
Oh my
my shirt, like I say, was open, and it flew in and like went under this side of the shirt, and he's in there flopping around, and all this dust on his wings is getting on my chest. And I finally got him off and knocked him to the floor of the truck and stomped him and then kicked him out. But within about, I don't know, it wasn't more than 5 minutes, my chest was on fire.
I can't imagine.
And it was bright red, and it was just like somebody was putting hot coals on it. And all I had was water, and I rinsed it.
Did
and
that help it?
It helped take some of the fire away, but within about 30 minutes, I was running a fever,
Oh,
and
that's
and I
scary.
was sick that whole night in the truck, in the jungle, all by myself. And by about 9 o'clock the next morning, I started coming out of it, and
Oh
it was
my
fine.
God.
But it was a scary 5 hours.
I remember you telling me there were spiders about so big that.
Oh yeah,
What
big
were they?
tarantulas the size of dinner plates. And
Big tarantulas, weren't they?
yeah, we.
Holy
Thanks.
cow.
It was a whole nother world. I know I was sure glad to get back to the U.S. I had to give a guy, because you could never trust that they was going to get you to the airport to fly out. And I had a pocket knife that was, I can't remember the brand Dad loved, but it was one.
Case.
Case, that's right. It was a Case pocket knife with 3 blades on it, and it was really a great pocket knife. And I had to bribe this guy that you get me to the airport so I can leave this country, and this pocket knife is yours.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he wasn't supposed to be driving, but he literally like stole a green construction truck and took me the 120 miles to the airport. And I got on the plane and got out of there, and I got back to the U.S. I kissed the ground.
I bet.
And it was scary because there was
No law either.
there was no law down there. We lived in a camp that was surrounded by 10-foot barbed wire, and they was guarded with guys and machine guns, and to keep the natives out from coming into camp, more or less protecting us. And it was where It hadn't been that long in Jonestown
Yeah, the
with,
Jonestown massacre.
where they killed
Suicide.
almost 200 people or something like that, and that was only like 60 miles away from where we was at in the jungle. And so it was good to be home.
I bet.
Never done it again. Yeah, I eventually went back to Des Moines and climbed the ladder there as far as management goes, and then Gibbs Cook got bought out by a Minnesota company by the name of Ziegler, and they just kind of liked what I was doing and became the product support manager for the whole state of Iowa. And one of the proudest things I guess I have on that aspect is I was the only one before and the only one that will ever be. I held that position for how many years, Pixie?
He started
9
in
or 10?
87.
Oh, 15 or 18 years. And I was the only one that didn't have a college education. I was the first to have that kind of position with a high school education and the last.
Wow.
Everyone else will have to have a college education to hold that position. And so that was kind of neat. And of course then took early retirement at 55 and haven't looked back.
And what year was that?
That would have been in 2006.
Dreaming, I'm always dreaming, dreaming, love will be mine. Oh, search.
All right. Throughout that long career, what was your biggest accomplishment?
Oh boy.
And we may have already covered that.
Yeah, if we haven't already covered it, yeah.
I suppose being a big part of the transformation from being one company moving and becoming another company.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the things I said and did, I was very key in that change, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And more or less got the 5 stores in the state of Iowa convinced that this was a good thing. It was good for their future, and you need to buy into this change to make your futures secure. And I was able to accomplish that with about 300 people.
Every night you go to bed crying. Oh, there's nothing left to do when love is dying. So before the whole world knows how we're hurting, oh, don't you think it's time we pull the curtain?
Okay, this is more of a reflective question, but what advice did your grandparents or parents give you that you remember best? Or that maybe just really
It'd be
stuck
my
with
father,
you?
and it paid big dividends. And it was the only advice he ever offered, and it was the most important advice I ever received. And that was when I started getting into the management side. He said, "Be quiet and listen. Don't talk unless you're asked to be, you're asked a question. Just sit, listen, and learn." And that's what I did. I kept my mouth shut, and I'd sit and listen. Other people would be talking and cutting up, and I would be listening and focused, and it paid big dividends because the people putting on the presentation thought I was I was interested, I was dedicated, and I was the one that wanted to learn, and that was the best.
It's pretty cool.
That's the best thing that I was ever. Not my grandfather, but Dad.
I think
And
that's
he
great.
and he only had an 8th grade education himself, so.
Just walk on by. Wait on the border. I love you, but we're strangers when we meet.
Dad was a smart guy.
Yeah,
He was.
With an 8th grade education. Now, I'll give you girls an example. He wanted us boys to play guitars so bad. He would take us to KRNT Theater in downtown Des Moines, which at the time was the Taj Mahal
Johnny Cash and
of
Jimmy
theaters
Dean.
in Des Moines, Iowa. And we would go to country western shows and then go home and try and emulate their playing the guitars and the songs that they did, and I mean I would practice and try and make the guitar sound like Johnny Cash's guys, you know, and all this kind of stuff, and then, you know, as any kid, you'd be, you know, 9, 10 years old, you'd kind of set it off to the side and quit playing. And sometimes, you know, it'd start to get into where maybe not pick that thing up for a month and a half or 2 months, and Dad would know that I wasn't all of a sudden, or I hadn't been, going into the bedroom and playing my guitar. Well, he, unlike a lot of parents, he didn't come in and say, you play that guitar, you practice that piano, or, you know, I want you to play on this thing an hour every night. He never ever did that. What he would do is he would take us back to another KRNT country western show. And we watched that show, and all of a sudden it was just like, oh my God, I got to get home and play this guitar. And that was one of the, I mean, that was
Pretty awesome.
that was a smart way of doing things. I mean,
That's awesome.
he didn't pound on us, he didn't preach to us, he just took us to a show, and we were ready
Just
to go.
highly suggestive. Yeah.
Everyone sing along. Come and sing the simple song of freedom. Sing it like you've never sung before. Let it fill the air. Tell the people everywhere. We the people you don't want a war. You want to try anything or not?
Next.
All right.
I'm sitting at the table where I call my baby's name. Oh, I'm wondering where our love went wrong. Wondering who's to blame. Listening.
The yard that we more or less grew up in had leaves and more leaves and so many leaves you can't imagine. And one of the things that we had to do every fall is we had to rake those leaves up in a pile and burn them. And so we'd rake for days, and we had a pile that was probably
Acorns. Oh my
And I don't mean to interrupt. How old were you guys at this time?
I probably would have been about 12 or 11, and he would have been 8 or 9.
Okay. Okay.
And
Fifth or sixth grade. Or
yeah, and so anyway, we raked for 3 or 4 days, and Dad worked nights. He was never around, and Mom worked at the Broadlawns Hospital, and she was never around. So we kind of supervised ourselves. And Dad said, "Boys, it's been raining. The leaves are a little wet. You're going to have to use a little gasoline to get them started." And he said, "So there's some gasoline in the boat. Just get that gasoline out of the boat and get it on the leaves." And he says, you know how much to use, and just light her off and get them leaves burnt, and everything should be fine. Just be safe about it." And so he's gone to work, Mom's gone to work, and we're done raking. And we got a great job of raking all these leaves. The pile must have been 7 feet high and 15 feet across. I mean, there was a lot of leaves. And Gary and I we already had our army hat, our army helmet on, and machine gun with the strap. They were on our back, ready to go to work.
Yes.
And we started a discussion, well, how much gasoline? And so we said, well, let's go see how much we got. And it happened to be that there was a 5-gallon can and a 6-gallon can. And we was going to start with 5, and then we decided these leaves are pretty wet.
And they're a big pile.
And it's a great big pile.
And there's a lot of Germans back there.
Yeah, and of course, in the behind the leaves was that was like the front line, and the Germans was coming, and it was just us two, and
There were a lot of Germans.
yeah, they had 3 battalions.
Oh my gosh.
And it was
Keeps
just us
growing.
two.
Yeah.
Versus 2.
Yeah.
Because they had 3 battalions, we needed a lot of gasoline. And so he grabbed a 5-gallon can and carried it like this between his legs because that was heavy for a couple
for
of
you guys.
young guys, and we went out there and
We were Navy SEALs before Naval SEALs.
That was
Whoever
even
knows.
invented, wasn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were.
Green Beret.
And so
I'm
so
sure you
anyway, we got the 5-gallon and the 6-gallon poured in the center of it. Now, you got to remember that these leaves were heavy, they were wet, and all that gasoline that we poured in there was held in by the wetness of the leaves, and the fumes couldn't even get away. The fumes was actually held within that whole big pile of leaves. We made us a trail, and the trail was
We had a
probably...
little log we hid behind.
That's right, we
The
had...
Germans were shooting.
That's right. We were under fire when all this was going on.
taking fire.
And we're taking fire, and Gary was wounded. I had to drag him.
Oh no.
I had to drag
What
him
happened to
down.
you? Why were you wounded? What happened?
Germans were shooting.
Yeah.
Where'd they take out your leg?
Oh shoot! I got several places.
He took
You had
one in
to take a
the
knife and
he
cut
took
out
one in the
floor.
side
Oh,
and then
no.
one in the left shoulder.
Oh no.
He was really no help to me at all.
Oh no.
You killed those freaking Germans.
And so anyway, we did. We actually had, it was a railroad tie.
Was
It was
it?
a railroad
See, I
tie
love
that we
the
got
way you're
down
doing that
behind, and we was maybe, 20 feet is all.
I don't know, but I know that
God.
that path that we laid of gasoline to get to the leaves, I thought it would go, but it went.
Yeah. So we made a trail of gasoline, and we had our box of wooden matches. And we used them a lot on other things
Yeah.
that we don't want to talk about.
Can't be
But
filmed.
anyway,
Cannons.
and so we're laying down and we're peeking over the railroad tie, and our little plastic helmets on, and our machine guns ready. And we lit that thing, and like Gary just said, we thought it was going to go, and it went to that pile of leaves, and it exploded and it was like an atomic bomb. We actually had a mushroom cloud. The concussion blew our army helmet off our heads.
Oh my god.
It literally blew them off our
And
heads.
there was an oak tree over the top of that, a giant oak tree over the top of those leaves, that there was so much heat and fumes, it was waving.
Oh my gosh,
and
you guys.
caught on fire.
Make the face right now that you made when that
Like
moment
look
happened.
up. What'd your faces
Gary's
look like?
eyes was like this big.
Like
Oh,
do
when
it,
it blew
Dad.
up or
Yeah, when it blew up.
When it blew
Oh,
up.
that was absolutely. It was terrible.
Very close. But his
What was
eyes were
happening?
bigger. His eyes was bigger back then. Anyway, no, it was a total surprise by both of us, and we are looking at each other like, and we didn't cuss back then, but it was, holy shit.
You know, if you had a cartoon sound to it, it would have been.
The ball of fire went up and literally caught the tree on fire. So we had a 35, 40-foot oak tree on fire.
On the top of it.
Yeah, going up through the limbs.
Oh my gosh.
And we are going,
12 and 8 or
oh
9.
my God.
Oh my
And
god.
the leaves that we raked.
We spent 3 days raking up leaves, and they were all spread. Not one of the freaking leaves burned. They were all spread back out over the yard.
Oh no. Oh no.
And Dad was coming home.
And Dad was coming
Oh.
home. But the next door neighbor, he heard the explosion and witnessed two little guys running around first to find their army helmets because they couldn't find them. And we were shooting off into the darkness.
Killing
because
Germans.
Killing Germans. But he was concerned about the tree on fire for whatever reason. And he was not a nice neighbor, but that's another story. But anyway, he called the fire department. And so we had the police and the fire department coming out to the house because the tree was on fire. And I think Mom got home during all that melee.
We were in a
Everybody,
war.
fire trucks, police cars, us in our army hats and guns, and we're like being the police got us in the interrogation room. Boys, how did this happen? You know, but
You will talk.
yeah, with the spotlight. And Gary's going, I don't know what happened. It just blew up.
It scared
And I'm
us.
going, calm down, because I was going to lie our way out of it. I just knew I could lie our way out.
Yeah, we don't know who the guy was that poured the gas
But-
on the leaves.
Anyway, that was one of our probably biggest events that we ever
Oh my
created.
gosh.
I don't know.
The message for grandkids or great grandkids
Or your children, right?
or my
yeah.
children.
Okay.
Future generations of them.
My message 3 or 4 years ago would be different than what it is today. I have a whole different outlook on life since I was fortunate enough to get a new set of lungs and still be here. As time was running out, and we didn't know when or if it was going to be soon enough to get a new set of lungs, I was constantly reflecting back as to, you know, how are the people going to think about me when I'm gone? And what I found out after I got the lungs is the best way that I can tell my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren is no matter how bad things may look, don't give up. And don't ever take them in, don't take the bad things as being the worst thing. Take the bad things as just a challenge, and don't take it on as this is the biggest challenge of my life and I don't know how I'm going to get this done and I don't know how I'm going to be able to handle it or get through it, because there's always something bigger. There's always something in the dark that's going to come out and surprise you, and it's going to be massive. And that's what I found out with the lungs, is I thought I'd had some major challenges in my life and they were nothing. And so try to take life on is it's not a horrible thing. It's just another challenge, another stair step in life, and that you can fix it. It may take a while, but you'll fix it, and life will be good again. And you're going to enjoy it after you get through the hard challenges. You'll have some of the best happy joys that life can offer, and that's what I've had since I got the lungs. Some of the happiest times in my life has been after I received the lungs, with friends and my brother, my wife, my kids. It's just how precious life is. Until you're on the verge of fighting for every breath of air and not having enough air to speak, and then all of a sudden you're back up and running again. I mean, it's just like, God, life is good, and I love my family, and I love being around them, and I'm fortunate. And that's what I believe is no matter how bad things look, you can make them better.
I know your light on earth was strong, and only you could know your pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You're no stranger to the rain. But rest on high on that mountain, son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, oh, shout love for the Father in the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us. Gather round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Rest on high on that mountain, son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, oh, what shall love for the Father is the Son. Love for